Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Calls. This is the 2025 RBC Heritage Data Dive Show. Per usual on a Monday evening, we're going to take our first look at the forecast for Harbor Town, see what is in store for the players this week at the RBC Heritage. We're going to take a deep statistical dive into the data and the metrics from the past few years at the RBC Heritage, see what plays well here, what types of shots and style of players generally do well. And of course, we're going to go through Fantasy National and find who those players are. So we have a lot to get into. Don't want to waste any time. Let's get into it. All statistics provided tonight and every night are from FantasyNational.com. It is the best golf analytic tool out there for your money. Go check out FantasyNational.com. You will not regret it. In the description of the video, there are links to all of the social media. First off, my X and Instagram, where normally I place research out every Monday regarding the course, some patterns of previous winners, things of that nature. Didn't do anything with that today for the RBC Heritage since this has moved to being a signature event. So I'll probably pick that up next year now when we have more than just 1 year of data to go off for a signature event. But normally, if you want to see the weekly research that I do on the PGA Tour, give me a follow at your preferred social media site. X is also where I place my weekly betting cards and top player usage in the DFS contest I play that comes out every Wednesday after the DFS Tactics show. So if you want to see the players I'm wagering, the players I'm using most often in my lineups, go give me a follow over at X. And then lastly, for social media, Gabe's handle is in the description. He writes a fantastic article called The Fringe. Really can't recommend it enough. And if you are a subscriber to his article, you're going to be able to join us in his Substack chat and have access to his deluxe version where he incorporates everything, including projected ownerships, into that. So you really are missing out if you aren't subscribed to his article. Make sure you're doing that and go follow him over on social media, because that is where we place our weekly write-ups for the picks that we started this year for the 2025 Picks Challenge. We post that over there on his social media page. The only way you're going to see our detailed write-up is if you're following him over on social media. And then lastly, for this intro, we're live. Chat's open. I want to hear from you all. Any concluding Masters talk that you want to have, feel free to put that in chat. And then moving forward to the RBC Heritage, is Scotty still the favorite in your eyes? Have you made any wagers? What do you think of the price board? So feel free to jump into chat, put your thoughts and opinions in there. Would love to hear from you all. And of course, if you're not able to catch the show live, put your feelings and thoughts in the comments. I'll always get to those as well. So let's get into it. Let's dig into the weeds of the data for the 2025 RBC Heritage. And we start, as we always do on a Monday night, with the extended look or extended forecast for the tournament. And as a reminder, we are in Harbor Town for the RBC Heritage at Harbor Town Golf Links. Not a whole lot of wind in the forecast for this week. Thursday looks pristine. Maybe the wind picks up a little bit in the afternoon, but a high near 70. Much the same on Friday. Perhaps the wind picks up just a touch in the afternoon, but high approaching 73 or 72, 73. Wind might pick up a little bit on Saturday and Sunday to a lesser extent, but nothing like we have seen in years prior around Harbor Town. And if this forecast does indeed hold, I just feel like this is going to play pretty easy, especially considering that the top talent on the PGA Tour is going to be here. So there's a look at your forecast 2.5 days out from the start of the tournament. And of course, we'll update this to Wednesday in the beginning of the DFS Tactics show. There's been no rain. There's no rain in the forecast. It should be as firm and fast as they want it to be down there at Harbor Town. So we'll move to Fantasy National, get a quick feel for the players that are in the field this week. The two biggest names that I have seen that aren't playing, most obviously Rory, off of his win at the Masters, has decided not to play this week, and Hideki Matsuyama is not playing this week. The only other notable would be Matt Kuchar. He received a sponsor's invite. So you see him priced at the very bottom here at $6,000. Those are the three kind of names that I have for you all early on this week in terms of field changes. We took a quick look at a few things last night, but it never hurts to do some quick review. So we're going to go all the way back to the beginning of 2023, and we're going to take a look at performance on Pete Dye courses. This is a Pete Dye course, one of his most famous designs, behind maybe TPC Sawgrass. But this plays like a true Pete Dye design. So your top performers in the past 2+ years on Pete Dye designs have been Scotty, Xander, Justin Thomas, Brian Harmon, Patrick Cantlay, Wyndham Clark, Tom Hoge, Colin Morikawa, Minwoo Lee, Sung Jae, and Denny McCarthy. We noticed this last night that the Masters was loaded in. They actually have the strokes gained data now. So some of the things that we took a casual look at last night will have changed. But there's your top performers on Pete Dye designs. Another kind of overarching or widely used filter that I'm going to be using this week is the short course metric. Less than 7,200 yards. Now, technically, the scorecard yardage for Harbortown is 7,213 yards. Certainly right on the precipice of that boundary. But I mentioned this last night, how the tournament organizers have never stretched Harbortown to that full length. You see, Fantasy National has less than 7,200 listed every single round going all the way back to 2012. So we're going to take a look at short course metrics this week. On short courses, your top performers in the field this week have been Scotty, Justin Thomas, Sepp Straka, Michael Kim, Patrick Cantlay, JT Poston, Austin Eckroat, Tom Hoge, Ludwig, and Eric Cole. Then the only other filter that I would think about is easy. I do think this is going to play easier, particularly because last year was the first year it was a signature event. We had 3 rounds of easy, 1 round of average, with the best players on the PGA Tour playing. And thanks to that forecast, I didn't see anything too extreme that would cause Harbortown to jump in difficulty from last year. So win rounds have been easy relative to par. Our top performers in the field this week: Scotty, Justin Thomas. So number 1, number 2 on all 3 of these metrics, I think, or if not 1, 2, very close to it. Scotty, JT, Sung Jae, Colin Morikawa, Matt McNeely, Ludwig, Michael Kim, Xander, Ryo Hitsatsune, and Daniel Berger. So there's a look at some big picture view, some high level overview of some filters that we'll probably be using this week. Before we do anything else, let's go ahead and go to Microsoft Excel, and we'll take a look at the deep statistical data and dive into that for the past years at Harbortown. Now, I only go back to 2020. I do have 2020 included in here, even though it was played in June. You can make an argument for and against. And then you'll notice that this highlight here signifies that it was a signature event last year. So much like I did for the API, for the Pebble Beach. I will remove these prior years after this week. But for our intents and purposes this evening, we're going to take a look and see how Harbortown played when it was a full field event and get an idea how consistent it was, what played well, and all of that. So we take our first look at our strokes gained. And the first thing that jumps off the page to me is how consistent off the tee is and putting. Hey, good evening, Derek. Thanks for jumping in chat. Very much appreciated. Hope you're doing well. Put a nice bow on the Masters and looking forward to a double tournament week this week. I can't recall if you mentioned how your Masters went in terms of DFS. Mine was an utter disaster. So if you had anything like, if you were anywhere like me, we're going to try to build our momentum back after a really, really bad week. The second tournament is the Corrales. It's an alternate field event in the Dominican Republic. Has been played there for several years now. But that's going to be covered all tomorrow and all that. You got wrecked. Rory in 90% of the lineups, but I was heavy on Sergio instead of Patrick Reed. Yeah. So surprisingly, or maybe not so surprisingly, considering how the tournament ended up faring out, that there was only 7% 6-6 lineups. So it seemed like everyone had a bit of that humble pie, if you will, or it seemed like most people missed on somebody. I just happened to miss on everybody, and that's not a good recipe for success. As I mentioned, I was all in on Scotty, and I still stand by my logic. It's easy to, Monday morning quarterback and armchair it, but Scotty finished fourth. If you would have told me that Scotty would have finished fourth at the beginning of Wednesday night or whatever, I'd have taken it. So I felt like my logic was there. Rory just won. Simple as that. And I didn't play nearly enough of Rory. I played a little bit of Justin Rose, not nearly enough. And players like Sepp Straka and Keegan missing the cut just blew up most of my lineups. I knew Kevin Yu was a long shot. I liked him for the ball striking and all that. And that's where I, took a stance. But it didn't seem like I got anything right for the Masters. And when that happens, you're going to have a bad week. And that's certainly what I had. So we're going to try and bounce back this week, Derek. Like I mentioned, the overwhelming, that lineup that won the $1 million seemed so easy to get to, but I wasn't even close. Only had Justin Rose in one lineup. That one had Sergio instead of Reed. I'm going to be honest, I don't even know what the winning lineup was because my Masters was essentially over Friday morning. I had an outright, kind of lurking on the periphery Sunday. Didn't make a charge or anything. So my Masters was basically over early. But as we move forward to the RBC Heritage, like I was mentioning with these strokes gained, it's surprising to see just how consistent off the tee has been, especially when it was a full field event. So despite the fact that it is generally not a very big deal, because most of the time players are playing to the same spots. There are severe dog legs and forced layups and things of that nature. It's probably would be wise of us to at least look at off the tee. And I'm thinking I'm going to use the Pete Dye filter on off the tee, considering he is notorious for the strategy off the tee. Do players take on the risk and try to set themselves up for an easier approach to the green, or do they play safe off the tee and potentially get into a lot of trouble with their second shot. So I like that combination of metric and filter there. You can see Harbour Town doesn't really accentuate anything. All three of these play just slightly above PGA Tour average. Now, all of these numbers are going to be quite deflated because of the smaller field from last year. But I think the bigger takeaway is that we'll probably look at a little bit of everything this evening in terms of strokes gained. Off the tee, of course, this is a Pete Dye design, so we're going to look at irons, simply put. These greens are so small that, yeah, around the green is going to be an issue, be a factor, because players are going to miss these greens. Not because it's overly difficult like the Masters, it's just the fact that these are the second smallest greens on the PGA Tour. So even if a guy hits a player hits a really good shot, they're gonna have to rely on their around the green game a little bit this week. Shocked to see Max Homa do well. His off the tee was not good, but his putting was elite. Not sure if we go back to him. We had a little bit of a conversation about him last night. You know, I don't know. I mean, he has been horrible for a year, and then plays well at the Masters. So I'm probably going to be on a wait and see approach and prove it to me again, Max type of mindset. And if that means I'm late on him, I'm late on him. But Max isn't somebody I'm really keen on this week. I wasn't last week either. So we'll probably take a look at all four strokes gained here at Harbour Town. Moving to distance, greens, fairways, things of that nature. Look, 2 years, distance has been a negative factor. It is just not something that is necessary or mandatory around Harbour Town. 35% less important than the average full field course. You really don't need to worry about distance here. Instead, I am more akin to believing in the good drives gained. So long as players are able to hit the green, particularly from the rough, or if they just find the fairway, it's more precision, absolutely more precision than distance. And I'm thinking more precision than accuracy. Even though this says, slightly under full field course average, I'm still under the belief that we'll probably want to take a look at good drives gained this evening. Because if we wanted to look at greens, by definition, we would look at opportunities because these are such small greens that if a player hits the green in regulation, it's essentially an opportunity anyway. So I'm thinking good drives gained in this page view. Moving to scoring, a little bit of everything. Yes, these numbers are quite a bit smaller, deflated from last year. Remember, this was a smaller, no-cut event, small field. Look how consistent the bogey avoidance was when it was a full field event. To be fair, the birdies gained was pretty consistent as well. So I don't know how I'm looking at the scoring. I would think probably birdies are better, considering I think it's going to be a little bit easier this week, but I can be convinced otherwise, especially considering how consistent they've been. Par 3s, 4s, and 5s, this is where a lot of the meat and potatoes come in, figuring out what range of holes we want to focus on. 75% of the strokes gained in par 3s come from 175 to 200. Now, the only thing that is forcing me to hesitate on just going all in on this range, look at last year when it was a signature event. This is the outlier, but it's the only year we have a signature event. So I'm still thinking it's 175 to 200. This right here gives me some pause. So regardless, the par 3s don't add a whole lot. They are 10% or 11% more important than the average full field course, but it didn't add a whole lot for our past winners, particularly our past winners. Moving to par fours, almost all of it is in the 400 to 500, which makes sense. 9 of the 11 par fours at Harbortown measure to this length. We do have one drivable par four and one short par four, but 9 of the 11 fall to this range. So I would guess this is where we're going to want to focus our attention in the par fours. And then the par fives, they were really, really consistent in the full field years, but they don't contribute a whole lot. There is one less par 5 here. This is a par 71. So it would seem like you would want to put the 550 to 600 because on the scorecard, all 3 fall to this range. But you see, when it was a full field event, they actually did shorten some of them to play in this range. But more than likely, we're just going to look at 550 to 600. I checked the prices for the players, and I was shocked to see Bud Cauley so cheap. I'm on the wagon. Is he low sixes? Because he's been playing well lately. Now, you don't know what that week or two off is going to do for him. I know the vision's skewed, but Bud Cauley, okay, he's 7,500. I would have thought he was in the sixes. They're giving him a lot of respect here, Derek. I mean, yes, he's been playing very well, 3 straight top sixes, but in a signature event, Bud Cauley 7,500 seems fairly high, at least in my mind. Last thing we'll take a look at just very, very quickly is proximities. Really, it's all about this 175 to 200. Yet, it was a negative factor last year. So, when it was a full field event, it was mostly the 175 to 200 that we wanted to focus on. So, that's probably where we're going to put most of our attention in the proximity. Is there. Just thought he would be 8K, but I feel you. I mean, 8K in a signature event for Bud Cauley. Look, I understand he's been playing well, but that'd be aggressive, I would say. I would argue that his pricing's pretty aggressive now. As I'm trying to remember, in fact, we'll just jump back to Fantasy National now. The other players, in the low sixes, like Nick Dunlap had a terrible Masters. Matt Kuchar wasn't really in this field, gets a sponsor's invite. Cam Davis hasn't played worth a damn lately. Matthew Pavone hasn't done much lately. I'm a little surprised to see Sammy Valimaki this low, considering he's coming in off 2 straight top 15s. So somebody that's in really, really good form. Somebody to think about in the very low sixes. Cam Young hasn't done anything. Highsmith hasn't done anything since his win. So, I mean, I can understand Bud Cauley maybe not being in the dredges of the sixes. I would have thought maybe the mid or upper sixes. But mid sevens is kind of aggressive. Hey, good evening, Phil. Thanks for jumping in chat. Very much appreciated. Hopefully you have put a bow on the Masters. Anything that you might want to talk about to wrap it up for your sake. And then moving forward, how are you feeling about the RBC Heritage? How do you feel about the pricing? Things of that nature. It's good to see you this evening. I think Hadwin was first round leader last year. We can check that. RBC Heritage certainly didn't finish that way. Can we sort on this? So no, Poston was your first round leader, firing an 8 under last year. Hadwin did play well in the first round and gradually fell backward, but your leader, first round leader, was JT Poston. Okay, now that we've went through some deeper statistical analysis of Harbor Town, let's go ahead and figure out the players that we think we're going to want to focus on throughout this week based on the statistics that we just covered in Microsoft Excel. First thing we're going to look at off the tee, considering how consistent it was the past 4 years, or at least the 4 years that it was a full field event. Your top off the tee players on Pete Dye Designs. And I feel like I did this earlier this season, whether it was at the Amex or somewhere else. I feel like I did this with some success. So I really like this metric and filter combination. Your top off the tee players on Pete Dye Designs: Scotty Scheffler, Aaron Rai, Brian Harmon, Patrick Cantlay, Ludwig, Colin Morikawa, Sung Jae, Austin Eckroat, Corey Connors, and Victor Hovland. We're going to remove the Pete Dye filter, and we're going to take a strong look at approach. This is a Pete Dye design. You have to be on top of your game with the irons if you're going to play well at a Pete Dye design. So your top iron players in 2025 in the field this week: Sepp Straka, Colin, JJ Spawn, Scheffler, Tom Hoagie, Xander, Shane Lowry, Justin Thomas, Sammy Valimaki, and Victor Hovland. Same goes for around the green. Even though this isn't terribly difficult, it's probably going to be easy. These greens are tiny. And guys are going to simply miss greens here. So your leaders in around the green in the field this week: Sung Jae, Minwoo Lee, Michael Kim, Seabez, Christian Bezuidenhout, Andrew Novak, Jason Day, Mackenzie Hughes, Patrick Rogers, Scotty Scheffler, Justin Thomas, Russell Henley, and Siwoo Kim. 3 of them tied for 10th there. And then lastly, we'll take a look at some Poa Trivialis putting. Make sure I don't have any other filters going. Harbor Town, Innisbrook, Memorial Park, Quail Hollow. You can probably recite them by now. I just say it out loud to remind myself. And then the 3 TPCs. We'll take a look at some Poa Trivialis putting. Your top putters on this surface: Denny McCarthy, Thomas Dietrich, Matt Kuchar, Jason Day, Sam Burns, Wyndham Clark, Matt McNeely, Seabez, Billy Horschel, and Adam Scott. And of course, we don't want to forget about the spike putting. So the players that spike most often, meaning they gain 3 strokes or more in their rounds: Ryan Gerard, 15%. So another reason why I've been so very high on him lately is that he can go nuclear with the putter. Did it at Houston, first round. He did it in the 4th round, or the final round at the Valero. He did it at the Players round. He did it at the Valero a couple of years ago. So he can go crazy with the putter at times. When we take a look at his form, you don't expect him to gain 7.5, no, but you see Valero, Houston, the Players, all of these are Poa Trivialis overseeded greens. And you see how well he is putt. In fact, he lost strokes with the irons and still finished runner-up at the Valero due to his really good short game. This is much more of an aberration. He's not a very good around the green player. He gained 6 at the Valero. You don't expect that. But he's been really, really good lately. So somebody else to maybe keep an eye on, particularly if you heavily value putting. There are 5 players here that spike double-digit percentage: Ryan Gerard, Minwoo Lee, Matt Kuchar, Victor Hovland, and Jacob Bridgman. Those are the ones that spike 10% or more. Some players that don't spike: Bobby Mack. Interesting to see Adam Scott 0% in terms of spike, but he was one of the top putters on this surface. He's just very, very consistent. You see the Valero, the Players last year. He's been a little bit more hit and miss this year, but he's not spiked, but he's just been extremely solid. Homa, Sungjae, Patrick Rogers. See some others here. Might ring a bell. Xander, Fitzpatrick. Oh no, he's 2%. So there you go. There's a few of the names that don't spike at all on Poa Trivialis. Went ahead and fired up a Rio Hitsatsune outright. Hey, I don't hate it. I have to imagine that he is at humongous odds. But I tell you what, he's been playing pretty solid lately. 6,300. The irons have been really, really good lately. 2 top 5s in his past 3. Missed the Players, but I mean the Players is just a grind, and you see he lost like 3.5. I'd be a little bit hesitant because I don't think he's this good of a putter. You know, gaining 5 at the Valspar, 2.5 at Houston, 2.5 at Valero. You know, I'd be a little bit wary or concerned with that, but it is promising that he's gained with the irons in 4 straight events. If you stretch back to Mexico, he's got 3 top 10s in his past 6 events. You know, at 6,300, he's certainly intriguing. Very, very intriguing. And generally speaking, he does a lot better when it's easy. And I think this will be easy this week. So I think you're onto something there, Phil. I really do. There's a look at the strokes gained performers in these various metrics that we looked at. I'm going to tell you, I'm probably going to have all 4 strokes gained in the mixed condition model. Probably like 5% off the tee, 5% putting, because I don't want to overweight the putting. But I'll probably have a little bit in all 4 of these come Wednesday night. We'll go to fairways and greens, and like I mentioned, I'm more thinking about good drives gained. And again, I'm probably going to use this Pete Dye filter, considering this is a combination of can you find the fairway or can you hit the green if you are in the rough. And again, Pete Dye is a master tactician and strategist like that. Sometimes it is better to be in the rough on the correct side than it is on the fairway on the other side of the same hole. It's just it all depends on the layout of the hole. So your top good drives gained players on Pete Dye Designs: Aaron Rai, Scotty, Colin Morikawa, Brian Harmon, Russell Henley, Sepp Straka, Austin Eckroat, Shane Lowry, Sungjae, and Victor Hovland. Really, Scotty and Victor are the only ones that are anywhere positive in distance. Most of these other guys are fairway finders, but Victor and Scotty have also been finding fairways on Pete Dye Designs for what it is worth. That's really all I think I can think of in this page view. Again, if you're wanting to look at greens, by definition, those would kind of be opportunities. So we'll go ahead and jump to scoring. And instead of using the Pete Dye filter in here, I am probably going to lean towards the easy relative to par filter. We only have 1 year of data from the signature event, but it was pretty easy. It was much easier than Harbortown generally plays. It played easy in 2020, but that's an outlier because it was played in June. The winds were down, and everybody was coming back from the layoff. So I'm thinking it's probably going to be pretty easy. So with that in mind, your top opportunities gained players when rounds have been easy: Lucas Glover, Scotty, Wyndham Clark, Matt McNeely, Ludwig Aubert, J.J. Spawn, Colin Morikawa, Shane Lowry, Sami Valimaki, Sepp Straka, Daniel Berger, and Chris Kirk. I do think we'll take a look at birdies are better gained, because Scotty won last year at 19 under. I would venture to say the winner's probably going to be in the upper teens again this year, would be my guess. So your top birdies are better gained players when rounds are easy: Scotty, Sungjae, Taylor Pendrith, Joe Highsmith, Colin Morikawa, Ludwig, Sahith Theegala, Maverick McNeely, Michael Kim, Eric Cole, Adam Scott, Siwoo Kim, Justin Thomas, and Akshay Bhatia. We'll go to proximity, and everything from when it was a full field event pointed to the 175 to 200, particularly in Microsoft Excel. So that's where I'm going to go tonight. And if I hear otherwise from other people that I talk to and listen to that do this as well, I'll explain Wednesday night if I change my mind. But for tonight, we'll take a look at 175 to 200. Your top players in proximity from that range: Keegan, Joe Highsmith, Sepp Straka, Victor Hovland, Bud Cauley. So good shout there, Derek. Will Zalatoris, Eric Cole, Shane Lowry, Colin Morikawa, and Corey Connors. We'll go to par threes. Again, it seems like it's the 175 to 200. Denny McCarthy, Austin Eckroat, Russell Henley, Morikawa, Connors, Scheffler, Xander, Matt McNeely, Brian Harman, and Lucas Glover. I will say you don't want to ignore the 200 to 225. So particularly like Russell Henley, Xander, Matt McNeely, those three are excellent at both of the ranges required at Harbor Town, but mostly in the 175 to 200. Par fours. Again, I'll sort by total par fours because there is a par four in all of these links here, but we're focused on the 400 to 500. So somebody like Scotty, Xander, Morikawa, Aaron Rai, Russell Henley, Shane Lowry. See, I wouldn't include Corey Connors in this. 30th doesn't seem too bad, but you got to remember there's only 72 players here, so 30th is much more middle of the pack than good. Sungjae maybe an honorable mention, top 20 in both. Lucas Glover probably an honorable mention. Patrick Cantlay. But really, you're looking at your usual culprits: Scotty, Xander, Morikawa, Aaron Rai, Henley, Lowry to a little bit of a lesser extent. And then par fives, it's all in the 550 to 600. Scotty, Minwoo, Davis Thompson, J-Day, Andrew Novak, Mackenzie Hughes, Ludwig Aubert, Corey Connors, Patrick Cantlay, Nick Dunlap. That's really all I have for you all in terms of a data dive. Like I said, I was not able to, I was hesitant to do much research considering next year I'm going to be, removing these years since it's been a signature event the past couple of years, and I imagine it's going to stay a signature event. So I'll do what I did for the API and Pebble Beach and limit it to 2 years. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I don't mind taking a gander at a player or particular statistic. I feel like I have an idea on the poll question that I'm going to want for Wednesday night, but feel free to let me know what you think a decent poll question would be, or what do you think a good category would be for Gabe and I to incorporate this week into our picks. So feel free to put those into the comments as well. Think I should fade JT. I know you asked about that last night. At 10-2, let's see. I don't recall offhand what his tournament history has been. So he's been pretty good here. He finished 5th last year, had a top 10 in 2020. The price is fair. Just thinking about it, like, look at Scotty at 13-1. Like, it is going to be extremely difficult to play Scotty and anybody else above 9,000. So I think that's the first question you have to ask yourself, Phil. What are you doing with Scotty? Are you playing him or are you not? Because if you're playing him and you want to try to squeeze in another, top tier guy, you're going to have to find your 6K or 2 6K guys to make that work. Just trying to get a casual look here. Like, Scotty's going to be popular. Ludwig off of his 3rd or whatever it was at the Masters. What did he do last year here? I feel like he was not the worst. Maybe I'm misremembering. There he is. I just saw him at the corner of my eye. I had him. And then I lost him. There he is. So you got top 10 here. So I'd imagine Ludwig's probably going to get a lot of play. Morikawa seems reasonable for him. Top 10 last year. Another top 10. You think Kuchar is a steal? Ooh. He hasn't really done a whole lot, I don't think, lately. I mean, yeah, he's coming in off the top 20 at the Valero, sure, but, like, you missed 3 straight events with, bad irons. He's putting well, but he's generally a good putter. I mean, if that's your 6K guy, okay. The benefit here is that this is a no-cut event. This really is a no-cut event. So he's going to get it all 4 rounds. So you don't have to worry about that. Maybe you do. Maybe you are on something there with Kuchar. I've got my eye on Sami Valimaki. His irons have been scorching hot lately. He's been putting very, very well. Coming in off 2 top 15s, one of those a top 5. So in the 6Ks, I've got my eye on Sami Valimaki. What about history here? I don't know how. We're coming off of the Masters, where Augusta is the most predictive course. It is, the most. What's the word I'm looking for? Past success generally indicates future results, and that's far and away the most at Augusta National. I'm really not sure that Harbor Town lends itself to being consistent because it's because you have 18 holes with water in play. Like, water comes into play on all of these holes. That can lead to some volatility. Like, for example, look at JT Poston. 3 top 10s and 2 missed cuts. Now some other players like Brian Harman has just generally been really good here. Cantley's been good here. I don't know. I'll tell you what I can do is, let me pull up 2024 and we can kind of get a feel. Now, it won't have Scotty in here. I didn't fill that in. Like, Matt Fitzpatrick's been decent here, but he missed the cut the year prior. Spieth didn't have a lot of recent success. Sink didn't have a lot of recent success. Kadira and Wesley Bryan had never played Harbour Town before they won. I'm not seeing a whole lot there, Phil. So if a player has shown routinely that they don't like playing here, maybe somebody like Ben On, this doesn't feel like a good Ben On fit. Somebody like Nick Taylor. Max Homa hasn't played well here. You know, if they consistently seem to struggle, I think you'd be able to write them off. But I wouldn't write off players like Novak or Bridgman or Gerard or, as you mentioned, Rio Itsatsune, Sami Valimaki, because you can play well here without having been here. But to answer the overall question, like, should you fade JT without seeing the exact ownerships, I would have to imagine that he's probably going to be fairly low owned, considering how poorly he played the weekend of the Masters. Ludwig's going to be popular. Morikawa's going to be popular. Xander played decently well. Cantley and Justin Thomas might not. Well, Cantley's probably going to get some ownership because he's been so good around Harbour Town. I would think Justin Thomas might be the most unique in the 5 digits. So to say to fade him, that's hard to say, this far out. Particularly if you're not playing Scheffler. Now, if you're playing Scheffler, I think you've made your choice. You're not playing anybody else up here in the 10s. I got a lot of Homer this week. I feel like the no cut will be good for his mental. Well, I mean, he did just finish top 15 at the Masters after having literally no form at all for seemingly a year. And he comes to the Masters off of 5 straight missed cuts, 6 straight events of losing with the irons. I would be a little wary of Max. He did gain 5.5 on those greens. You just don't expect that. It was encouraging to see him gain with the irons, but I think a lot of that is with the putter. And the putting is fickle. Can't count on it from week to week unless you're, somebody elite like Denny McCarthy generally. But even he has bad weeks. So I can't. If I'm late on Homa, I'm late on Homa. But prove it to me again, Max, is essentially the stance I'm taking. Because he also generally plays better when it's difficult. And I don't foresee it being difficult this week. But good questions. Absolutely good questions. I would think JT's probably going to be one of the more unique options in the 10Ks. That's why I'm hesitant to say, like, you're easily enough to fade him. But that's what I have for a Data Dive show. Again, I apologize that I didn't have an early look file or more prior research to show you all. It's been fairly busy. I'm recovering from a long weekend, and I've got a second tournament that I'm going to be looking into, and that is the Corrales, the alternate field event. So as a reminder, I will be live tomorrow night with the research, the data, and the DFS all in one night for the Corrales. And if people are willing to put in the time and the research, there's a lot of value to be had in these alternate field events because they just get forgotten. And a lot of the times, I haven't looked at the odds today, but a lot of times, like the favorites at these alternate field events are close to 20-1. So there's a lot of value there as long as you're willing to put in the work. That's what we're going to be doing tomorrow. Tomorrow is the Corrales full show. So thanks to Derek and Phil for jumping in the chat. Very much appreciated. Thanks to everyone else out there who tunes in watches, listens, and supports the channel by liking the videos, commenting, and subscribing. I always appreciate it. Love what I do, taking a very in-depth look at golf statistics, giving you a statistician's view of what he sees, trying to help us all win a little bit of money in the process. Last week was a disaster, so we're going to try to bounce back and get back on the right track with like we were 2 weeks for the 2 weeks before the Masters. Again, reminder, I'll be live tomorrow for the Corrales. So for all of the wagers you made so far this week for the RBC Heritage, for all the wagers you're thinking about making this week for the RBC Heritage, and until I see you tomorrow night for the Corrales full show, may all your bets be profitable.